Back with another episode of The Blue Turf, and we are not where, Eric?
We are not at the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome.
We are not. We are just Zooming today. We both had tr trouble getting to the dome today, and so we are Zooming, but happily so. How are you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing all right. I've been battling a cold, but hopefully I'll be chipper as usual on Friday night when UCFC comes to town.
And I don't think I said, but you are Eric Bergerud, one half of the Comets broadcast team. Apparently the lesser half, according to
The
some people.
lesser half,
But
that's correct.
but I think that you are a good equal 50-50.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Thad. You've been busy. You've got KC Current News. You've got people asking questions about sporting Kansas City's new uniforms this year. You got a lot to cover across soccer.
And I do have to admit, I've actually seen a picture of the new kit for Sporting. I'm not going to leak it. I am going to let them do it their way. I think that's a fair thing to do in this case. But
Would it be fair to say you cannot confirm or deny that Argyle is a component of that?
man, I am not going to go there either
Well, you can
way.
just say I can't confirm or deny, and then that way it's a non-answer.
And I will say that what I saw I liked.
Okay.
And let's see, I've been on Zooms in the last day with Vlatko Ananoski, with uh Stefan Stokic, with you. I think I've got another presser tomorrow at Sporting. So it's just it's the off season and it's for outdoor and busy as heck.
It's going to be a banner year for soccer in the soccer capital with everything going on. The Comets on a tear, new outdoor season starting, Messi coming to GEHA Field. Have my tickets, by the way. Then you get into Copa America and everything else. There's a lot of soccer for you to cover and for fans to watch this year.
There is. However, this is a primarily indoor soccer
Mhm.
focused pod. So last match, Harrisburg Heat, Kansas City Comets. Comets took the victory. Was it as strong as you would like to have seen it?
I'd say a little mixed. I think on the positive side, Leo Gibson scoring not only once but twice is a really positive thing because he had been struggling. You go back to the New Year's Eve game at St. Louis, he had a what looked like a tap in goal right in front of an open goal, and he put it over the crossbar. And I think he was feeling a little bit frustrated. We talked about it on air. Nick Vasos and I did how he was working in after practice one day last week with Coach Stokic on just setup and shots, and it looked like it paid off. I'd say that was a positive. Nacho Flores continues to impress, 4 assists, and he's having a banner year for him and among the league leaders in assists. I think if I had only a question, Thad, it would be goal differential. We've talked about this on air a few times, is one of the tiebreakers this year in the MASL if you're thinking about playoff seeding. And let's just say that other teams have beaten Harrisburg by more than 4 goals. Milwaukee beat them by 7 goals the next day. And so there might have been an opportunity to score a few more, but it was a pretty compelling victory, I guess you could say, for the Comets. And now they've got a serious game ahead of them with a team that is going to be a little bit more desperate than they might have been last weekend.
You mentioned Nacho with the 4 assists, and he did not even get one of the stars of the game.
Well, I will own a little bit of this. So I saw a little bit of banner between you and Mike Kuhn on Twitter about voting, and so I I sort of have a challenge in that I'm so busy watching the games. I'm don't have the stats right in front of me because I'm watching Twitch and I'm trying to call the game, and I was going off of memory. I also turn in my 1, 2, and 3 stars before Don Francis scored his third goal. And so I've decided I'm going to try to do things a little bit different and feet drag a bit before I turn in my picks because This was there were a couple things I would have done differently on my picks if I had a little bit more time. And so I will own my part in how the voting came out, but I don't have any problem with Leo Gibson being the first star player of the game. And I think that he looked more like the Leo of old, and they are going to need his scoring prowess there because it can't be all Zach Reggett at the target. We hope that Rion Marquez will be back. And if he is, then we'll see Coach Stokic get creative like he was at the first part of the season with potentially two targets on the field at the same time.
I will give a slight Rion update in a little bit,
Good
but I
deal.
will go back to the Nacho controversy.
Sure.
I don't want to call it that, but just for fun. I also am very challenged with trying to submit a 3 stars of the game because I'm trying to shoot the game. So I often feel like I don't keep track mentally of like who's got the total number of points. My first thought is like who stood out to me, but I have like pulled the phone out when there's about 7 minutes left in the game, try to pull up the stats, and then I send in my vote by text to former Kansas City Soccer Journal contributor Nathan Dunn, and I send that. And this last game, I send it in, and I did have Dom Francis as one of them. And then, a minute later, scoring changes. I send in, take this one off, add that one. So apparently, I was the only one that tried to get Nacho into the voting.
Yeah, mea culpa. So
Well,
I
and I understand for you, man. I'm criticizing the other
yeah.
couple that have votes.
So the good thing why I don't feel so badly about it is because we highlighted Nacho in our pregame comments about players to watch. So I kind of feel like, hey, we did bring a lot of attention to him and if you think about it, in terms of players being snubbed, Dom Francis and Nacho Flores were our two highlight players, and they both had highlight games. And kudos to Dom Francis. He is now third in the league in goal scoring. So he has been on a tear lately, and I knew he would come back to Kansas City and try to entertain the fans, and he did.
Yeah, quality player, and obviously one of the best ones on Harrisburg at the moment.
That's right.
All right. A solid win, maybe not as spectacular as we would have liked to have seen, not as many goals to try to catch up, make up some goal differential, but it was a win. They are now going to face Utica, who is what, third, I believe, right now.
Yeah.
Uh, but on a little bit of a losing streak.
Yeah. And so UCFC fans last week were apoplectic, I think, is or some were apoplectic when some of these league rankings, so not just from MASL Monday, but some of these other podcasts had them ranked as the sixth best team in MASL, and fans couldn't believe it. It's like, hey, we're undefeated. Why are you downgrading us? And then the detractor said, well, it's because you played Harrisburg and Baltimore and you haven't really played anybody else. And so they went to Milwaukee and lost. They went to Tacoma and lost. A big caveat is they were out without starting goalkeeper Andrew Coughlin, and we'll see what his status is for this weekend. But sure, that made a difference. But definitely having to go on the road in a circumstance like that was a challenge for them. And now they're staring up at the Comets, and I think Utica is going to be a little bit more desperate this weekend because they cannot afford to fall behind. And right now, KC is 1, Monterrey is 2, but Monterrey has played one less game than the Comets and UCFC. But I expect UCFC to want to score a lot of goals. That's what we're used to with that team, and they have a lot of different players who can contribute.
And to kind of round that standings out, so Comets, Monterrey, Utica, Milwaukee, Baltimore, St. Louis, Harrisburg in the East.
Yeah, and as a friendly reminder to listeners, the top 4 teams in each of the conferences will be the playoff representatives this year. No more wild card like there was last year. And so St. Louis and Harrisburg, particularly Harrisburg, are looking up, and the distance is growing between the teams that would be qualified and them. Baltimore's right now sort of the bubble team. Can they get their act together and catch up to Milwaukee and the others? But for the Comets, every 3 points at home is critical. And we can definitely talk about what to expect with UCFC, but we also need to pivot after that to what faces them starting Sunday, which is road trip to Mexico and back-to-back games at Monterrey in that small arena, and what's at stake here for the Comets if you look at this in totality.
Yeah, it's this, and we've talked about it before, but this month is going to be super critical for the Comets. That's We're getting past a nice run of home games, and now we're going for a long run of road games at difficult places. Monterey twice, Chihuahua. After that, who cares? I think Utica for the fourth one, right? So it's going to be key for the Comets to finish off this stand well, and then try to snag points in Monterey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so you definitely want to get all 3 points at home. I think for if you're Utica, any points would be good, but 3 points would be definitely helpful this Friday. And then the Comets are thinking we have two in Monterey, then Chihuahua, then we go to Utica. I'm going off memory, Thad. Then we go to Baltimore, and then we finish up in St. Louis. And so there are different opportunities all over the place there, but I'm sure Coach Stokich is going to have them focused on the matter at hand, which is what are you going to do with a team that has the MASL's all-time leading scorer, Frank Tayu, up front, has Gordy Gerson, although he's been hurt part of the year, up front. That's somebody who has impressed me and is going to be our spotlight player, Ronaldinho Denise, 11 goals, 5 assists, and his pace is unbelievable. And so they will throw a lot at the Comets, and the Comets need to be prepared for quite a battle.
I did talk to Coach Stokic this morning or this afternoon, excuse me, by Zoom, and asked him, how he was trying to balance that. We'll let him speak his words earlier, but he basically has to focus on Utica first, and he mentioned how fast they are, the transition, their midfield, uh, and then what's he going to have to do to get ready for Monterey, which he really can't do any practice for Monterey.
Well, we saw, I think this isn't really sharing state secrets, and keep in mind this is when Leo Gibson was the player coach. We saw the Comets last year heading into Baltimore trying to figure out how do we use the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome facility to try to shrink the field and get reps in that way. I think the challenge this one brings is there's not really a turnaround between UCFC and Monterey. And so in a way, you're thrown into the Lions Den Sunday at Monterey and then make your adjustments on Tuesday. And so we'll see. Both of those teams have all sorts of options in terms of firepower offensively. Monterey's has two of the best goalkeepers in the league. They have a great tandem between Baldobinos and who has bounced between Chihuahua and Monterey, but he is terrific in his own right. And then somebody we got a first taste of last year who is technically leading the league in goals against average. That's Christian Hernandez, young goalkeeper, acrobatic, has already been player of the week this year in the MASL. And so I think two solid goalkeepers there. Andrew Coughlin, if he does play, terrific goalkeeper. Not to take anything from Brian Wilkin, but I think in the case of UCFC, Coughlin is the clear number one.
Yeah, would agree. Um, so how would you expect coach to face this game with knowing that there's a Monterey game 2 games later, 2 days
So
later?
here's where it gets tricky, and here's where I only have the information available to me, Thad. I know that there are some visa travel problems that are going to limit who can go to Mexico. What I don't know is who's impacted. And so that could have all sorts of um, implications for player rotation. How's that?
Now, I will say that I was told that they're going to go with travel with 22 people for that entire road trip. Two coaches, trainer, Sean, three goalies, and 16 field players.
Okay.
So total of 22. So they have at least enough players to take that large of a roster.
Yeah.
And I was also told that yes, Rian and Berto should be in the group that should be capable of going.
Okay. Well, I know that they were both, and particularly Berto had circled the UCFC game as a comeback game, and so I think Comets fans got a real taste of what was possible in terms of the whole package for this team when they saw Chad Vandergriff and Berto Palmer on the same line together, and so getting everybody back is going to be a good thing, and not just on that back line, but we saw, let's call it the old Rion Marquez earlier this season. Uh, he is, when he's on his game and he's feeling healthy, he's really difficult to defend. Big body, uh, powerful target, and one of his highlight goals this year, he scored it on the ground. And so
Yep.
I think having him in the lineup cr- creates some matchup issues that should give Zach Reggett a little bit more space on the odd shifts, because I think coaches right now have been targeting Reggett as, okay, we have to put, we're going to have to solve for Reggett first.
And primarily only Reggett at this point, up until just this last game when Leo kind of got
Yeah.
his scoring shoes back on.
Right.
Um, which is, that was a long run there for Leo not getting a goal. And again, congratulations to him. So well deserved. And I expect him to knock in quite a few more this year now that he's kind of got back in the groove a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tee up a couple stats we're going to share in the broadcast on Friday night. In terms of Leo, your colleague at the KC Soccer Journal, Mike Kuhn, had announced that with Leo's assist on Saturday night, he just passed Kevin Ketters to become the second all-time Kansas City indoor soccer history in terms of assist leaders. And so we will share that top five during the second quarter media timeout on the broadcast. But the other thing we'll share is that Zach Reggett, 10-game goal scoring streak. So even though some of the goals aren't as pretty as others, and I think the one on Saturday would fall in that category, he's still consistent.
Yeah, that first one on Saturday. Yeah. He kind of laughed at that one, but that's
Yep.
when you're good and you're getting good opportunities, even the ones that aren't perfect, go in.
Yep, that's right.
Um, Speaking of Zach Reggett, I was a little surprised when I saw the futsal camp roster come out and he was not on it.
Yeah.
I
So I have a theory about this too. Zach,
Go ahead.
yeah. So Everton, who is the head coach at UCFC and is also the U.S. futsal team coach, is doing a January camp in advance of CONCACAF qualifying in April. And so the camp runs from the 14th to the 19th. You can kind of do your math and see how that overlays on the Comets road trip to Mexico. So perhaps there was an agreement there not to take him away from the Comets during this big 3-game stretch. I haven't looked at UCFC's schedule that week just to see
They have
how.
no games.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, there you go. See how that works out. So, um,
Let me interject. I'm sorry. I was told he was called into the futsal camp,
but he didn't appear on it.
but he declined.
Oh, he declined. Okay.
Yes, because he wanted to stay and go on the road trip.
Wow. See, you have better sources than I do. Look at you.
So I congratulate Zach Reggett because he should be called into the futsal camp whenever they have a futsal camp. I mean,
Yep.
he should be called in. He's not be in danger of losing his spot.
Right.
But I am not going to suggest that Everton is in any way doing something biased, but it would potentially help Utica if he was not on that road trip, and Kansas City would have a harder time getting some points on that road trip. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that was
that wasn't my point. I think my point was perhaps the Comets said, "Hey, look, it's great that you're off, but we need him, so
right.
don't." Yeah, right.
So yeah, I was told earlier today that he declined the invitation for this trip or this camp so that he could play this week or this road trip.
Well, it's terrific. The other thing that does it reinforces loyalty because Coach Stokic is all about culture, all about family, and that decision shows that Zach Reg is just as committed to culture and family as any other player should be expected to be.
As competitive as Zach Reggett is, I almost expected. I mean, this I actually asked because I wondered if he turned it down or if the Comets said no or
Mm-hmm.
how any of that worked. I That's why I asked. But if you were a player, would you rather play three competitive games in Mexico or go to a camp with a bunch of your friends?
No, I think that's fair. I think it's something that perhaps you or I or both of us need to investigate is if you fast forward to April, which would be around playoff time, and the US is flying south to compete in the CONCACAF futsal tournament, how's that going to impact MASL players whose teams are in the playoffs?
Because there are more than one.
Yeah, if you look at who got called up, you have multiple teams involved, ranging from Texas Outlaws, which uh, feels like half the futsal roster is the starting offense for the Texas Outlaws. But you had UCFC, you had Baltimore, you had Milwaukee, you had multiple teams represented there. Um, and so, how might this play out?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because that's a whole different story when you're going to play for your country, not just a camp. So that's going to be a whole different story, and I'm not really going to blame him either way that goes. But all right, other interesting look at this game, Utica and then Monterrey. For Monterrey, they play Saturday at Texas. So
Yep.
Friday night, Comets play. They can travel to Monterey on Saturday. Saturday night, Monterey is in Texas, and they need to travel back that night or the next morning. So this is going to be one of those really weird congestion things where it actually works in the Comets' favor for a change.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. The Texas Outlaws are a good team. We've seen them here in Kansas City. They're the only team to have uh, beaten the Comets this season. They took care of Empire last night on the road, and I mean, I think they're a legit top five team in this league. Legit. So it's going to be a battle for Monterey, and they have to think about player movement and management, and who's going to be eligible to play, who isn't eligible to play. And one benefit that they have is they definitely have no qualms rotating goalkeepers, which I think is fine. But ultimately, if that game goes long in Texas, overtime or whatever, that's a really short turnaround to get back out of the United States back into Mexico. It's not like it's sort of like an easy domestic flight that they'll be facing, and so that could be interesting.
So yeah, that's the one thing that's in the Comets' advantage in their favor for that game at least. They don't. It seems like it's always on the they're always on the opposite end of those kind of trips, but this time it's in their favor. Hopefully they take advantage of that. Get some points at least in that first game at Monterey. It'll still going to be a tough battle no matter which way you look at it.
That's right. Hey, I want to go back to futsal for a second. So the I mentioned that the CONCACAF championship tournament is going to be in April. It's in Nicaragua, and it's April 13th through 20th. And so you can imagine how that might challenge MASL. And it may be interesting to see if they get really creative on the playoff schedule to accommodate this. And so I haven't read anything publicly about this yet, but it wouldn't surprise me in the next month or two whether this picks up some momentum in terms of how MASL can support this team but not totally detract from their own playoffs and the crowning of a champion.
Yeah, perhaps that's a question I should send into the league office.
You could, hey, you have a media credential, you go for it.
I don't know if they actually will talk to me though, but we'll see. We'll try.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. We've talked about past, the future, players available should be healthy or at least somewhat. I do expect there. I don't even if Rian and Berto do play either in Utica or on the road trip, I do expect them not to play all the games because they do have to at least manage their time a little bit.
Sure.
So it will take coach being a little creative. And what else do we need to talk about?
Um, yeah, maybe, hey, I'll reverse roles with you and I'll throw something at you. So the Comets have now played a third of their season, 7-1, which I think most people would be pretty happy with. I'm sure
Yep.
that Coach Stokic would prefer to be 8-0. I mean, if you had the choice, he would prefer to be 8-0. But who are your one or two breakout players this third of the season? And I mean, there may be some logical people, but there may be some other people you want to mention.
Well, that is a good question, and Uh, it's always I always quibble with myself when I have those type of questions because what is a breakout player? Is it a player that is like the best one at the moment or whatever? I think Leo Acosta is a breakout player. We kind of thought he would be really good, but he's showing it. He's been battling injuries, so he's not even at 100%. Uh, I don't. And what is it? What defines a breakout player? Somebody who hasn't been good or is new. Uh, Mikey Linus has showed really well, and I was talking with a former Comets coach about that recently, about how it takes a while to learn the indoor game, and he's learning it, and it takes at least a third of a season for somebody to get good. Really, it takes 2 or 3 seasons for him to get really good, but he's showing that he can play in this league. I think even a couple of the other young guys have really impressed me that they're playing really good, smart shifts. Henry Ramirez, Lalo Alonso. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, I think that's right. I would say from the more veteran players, we're seeing more of the complete Ray Lee package this year, where he's getting in offensive situations and he scored with both feet this year, which I think is definitely a plus. Not having to focus as much on defense because I think Ray Lee is a terrific two-way player. I think that we talked about Nacho. You wouldn't at this point in the season necessarily expect Nacho to lead your team in assists, and he is not only leading the Comets in assists, but one of the top in the whole MASL. So for me, not necessarily a breakout, but something that's impressive. And then I would just say John Sosa, other than the cheeky goal he scored on Saturday night, he continues to demonstrate why he's one of the best players in the league. And what I mean by player is he understands the game. He on set pieces, he understands where his teammates are and what are the most effective ways to create the best goal scoring opportunities. And sure, he's going to lose some foot races with younger players, but his soccer IQ is high, and it would not surprise me this year for him to be under consideration for one of the league awards.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those. I think if you wanted to ask me a question to get me to name one of those guys, it would have been who's been standing out more than who's a
Okay,
breakout. But
sure, that's
so,
fair.
um, because I agree with all of those. Ray Lee has been always really good at being kind of a two-way player, uh, with extra defense this year and a little bit more solid everything. He's able to take those chances a little bit more often. Nacho, I think if you went back and looked over the last few seasons, there was always a game or two or three or four where he would get 2, 3 assists and a goal and would just be really great player that game. But I think this year he's been more healthy, because I think in the last few years, it seems like every year he's like battling an ankle injury or something along that line. So I think that's been really key for him. Sosa, I mean, he probably hasn't sped up this year, but he looks as fit as he has in a while, if that makes sense. And I don't know that I'm sure there's some other players out there that may come close, but as far as I'm concerned, on a restart, he would be the guy that I would want taking it, setting it up.
Yeah, and then not to overlook Zach Reggett, you project where he might end the season in scoring based on how he started, 2 goals a game average. That's really what the Comets front office expected when they made that big trade with Harrisburg last year to bring him in. And he's in a battle right now with Futsaler, Luis Morales, and Nick Pereira. Don't forget, uh, what do they call him? Nick MV Pereira. Tacoma does now. And so there's a battle for the league goal scoring title. And traditionally, MSL voters are going to give the MVP award to whoever wins that. And so Reggett has his chances, and a busy, busy week and a half for him to knock some in.
So this is uh, you got me thinking about this now. Will Reggett be a better goal scorer on a small field or a big field?
Let's just say this: there are more opportunities on a small field, just back and forth. I think this is where we need the professor would be. Look at say Cable Dom Arena versus any of the small three, which would be Baltimore, Monterrey, or Chihuahua, and just count aggregate goals per game, both teams. I guarantee you that on the smaller fields, the number of goals scored each game is higher just because the ball's moving quicker from one end to the end. And so I would think just being in the right place at the right time, attackers are going to have more opportunities in a small field. You still have to convert them, and there's terrific goalkeepers in Monterey and Chihuahua, so nothing's guaranteed.
No, nothing's guaranteed, and I can see the logic going a little bit both ways. You might have more opportunities, but you have more people packed into a tighter area, so there's less gaps. So and defenders can get back faster. So I could see it kind of either way. But Reggett scores whether it's a breakaway or a scramble for the ball in the box. That one he scored on a kind of half bicycle, half volley the other night, which deflected off the keeper and then lobbed itself in. Uh, just that sort of thing. So it kind of goes both ways. And maybe that's a question I should ask tomorrow if I get a chance to get to the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome.
There you go.
All
We
right.
should do like a live. We should do a live episode at the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome and just say, "Hey, look, we're going to do it at this date and time. You can come, be part of the experience, and really celebrate the majesty that's facility has served the Kansas City indoor soccer community for a long time."
It's been around for a long time. I played there when I was younger, so it's been around for a while. I do want to say thanks to another Eric, not you. I mean, I want to say thanks to you as always, but a friend that I hadn't talked to for a few years popped back up and was at the game the other night. So, hi, Eric. And any famous last words that you wanted there throughout
No,
there?
just another shout out to your colleague Mike Kuhn, who's been sending really good or putting together really good content after every Comets game. And he not only looks at what you would call Comets 3, the third iteration of the Comets, but all time. And so he's been providing some context in terms of where Leo Gibson, Nicolau Neto, and John Sosa are ranking in all-time Kansas City indoor soccer history. So he focused on Nicolau Neto last game. This game, it's mainly going to be Leo, but Leo and John Sosa are all-timers when it comes to assists. But I know that I subscribe to the KC Soccer Journal, so I get his weekly updates in my inbox. And I would encourage all listeners to the Blue Turf. If you haven't subscribed yet, what's stopping you?
And for our family of podcasts, listen, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm not very good at doing that part of the advertisement. And after this ends with Eric, stay tuned. There will be a few minutes with Coach Dokik. I caught him at home. There was a little pause in there while his family had to say hi to me, but I appreciate it, Eric.
Thank you, and look forward to a big week for the Comets.
See you on Friday. And we are out. Big match against Utica this weekend. Uh, just what do you expect from them?
I mean, I'm expecting what they've been doing so far. With their high pressure and quick transition, going forward. I'm expecting them to come and play their best game. We've been analyzing and working, all week long in preparation for Utica. So, they have their midfield has been unbelievable in transition and scoring goals, and they're very fast. So, we have a lot of defensive stuff. We talked a lot about defensive stuff this week. But for me, is I'm expecting probably their best game so far. I feel like everybody comes to Kansas City plays their best game. But I think we're expecting so, expecting them to give us a big. It's a huge game for us. So the main thing is they have scored. I think they're like 6.6 goals a game, or more. I think I can't remember exactly what it was, but even in their losses, they've lost. They lost, but they've still scored 7 goals in each of those games. So our main thing is for them to keep them at 4. Wait, somebody else wants to say hi. There you go. Okay. Everybody has to come say hi. So our main thing is if we keep them, because our goal this year is every game we play, we want to keep every team at 4 goals, not more. So I think right now is if we keep them on our goal, we have a good chance of winning the game.
They started off undefeated. I think 6, 7 games undefeated, but they've lost the last 2. Do you expect that to be a little motivation for them to come in even harder?
Yes, I said actually it was one of my talks today. Was is now it became even tougher because they're coming off of two game losing streak away games, and they're gonna come out, and to be honest with you, when they look at our schedule, they're gonna come out because I think they have like 9 days off after this game, and we go on a 4 game 7 day road trip, I would say. And one of the comments was from the assistant coaches was, if I was Everton, I would full on go and high pressure us because knowing that you know what we're enduring. So
Yeah, that's I expected them to come full at you no matter what, but throwing that into it, it's going to be even more likely that they do. Uh, how do you manage this game knowing that you're going to go on the road for, several games there?
So the most important thing that I told the boys was we're gonna focus game by game right now. Don't worry about the next game. Don't worry about the last game of next week. Focus on Utica right now, and we'll focus on Monterrey when the time comes. So for me right now is focus on Utica. It's a huge game for us at home, and then of course the 2 Monterrey games are away. Huge is for us as well. Don't forget that uh, Monterrey plays Saturday against Texas, um, and they fly back, I think, Sunday morning to Monterrey. So we're especially in that first game, we're hoping that we can go at them and put them under pressure with the travel that they have. But you know, right now, just focusing game by game.
It's one of those rare occurrences. I feel like you guys actually get a little bit of advantage on the rest on those weird travel days because it always seems to go against you guys.
That was the only time. I mean, that's the only time we get a little bit of an advantage. But again, I don't think. And again, I said before, with the schedule we have in front of us, it's a good test for us, and see where we're at, what we need to still work on and get better at, and this weekend we'll be challenged in so many ways, and we'll see how we react to that and how ready we are.
This next couple of weeks is going to be really key for you. You're playing Utica, Monterey twice, Chihuahua, and then Utica again. That's the top of the table right there in the East. How key is it to just get results, get points out of that?
It's huge. I mean, this month we can kind of, I think, carve ourselves as, you know, staying in first place, right? I think, you know, Monterrey is still one game less than us. So, I mean, if they win their game, they're above us, in second place. But I think this month, I'm sorry, is going to give us a good indication if we have a chance to be number one in our division or not. You know, so they're huge for us, and you know we've been working hard for this moment, and you know there's a reason why we did all that preseason and preparation is for this moment. So
Are you getting any of those injured veterans back for this road trip?
yes, Rian and Berto will be back.
I guess that's got to feel good.
Yes, it does, but we have to watch out on them. Like one of the things I'm hoping, you know, we are worried about the results, but I think, you know, for me is to stay injury free is huge, because if we come out of that week with a lot of injuries, that's going to hurt us down the road as well. So I think, you know, being cautious and being, you know, yes, we want to win every game, but I think we need to watch out as well, and see how their bodies are after a few of the games, and make tough decisions. Because none of these guys don't want to play. They want to play every game. And that's a good thing, by the way. But I have to make the tough decisions, me and the coaching staff, of how to manage that for them, and make sure we come out of this weekend with not a lot of injuries.
Do you look them in the eye to see if they're like maybe fibbing to you how healthy they are?
I have these conversations in person for a reason.
I don't doubt it. All right. Again, with a game on the 12th, the 14th, the 16th, the 19th, you don't really have any practice time in between games. Does it make it even more difficult? Because you know, you can usually practice a little bit and, you know, think about who you're facing next. So even make it more difficult now that you really don't have practice time before you face Monterrey after Utica?
Sorry, give me one second. I didn't hear the last part.
Uh,
If you
it,
can,
no problem. Is it make it more difficult when you know you don't have practice time between you know, different opponents? You after Utica, you don't really have a practice time to before you face Monterrey.
yeah, I mean, we're prepared this week. The only thing that I did not like about in preparation is that we couldn't really do the small field because we're playing against Utica Friday. So what I didn't want to do is take away from this game what we're gonna do in Monterrey. So I don't think it's more difficult. I think it's just changing in a mindset, right? That you're playing on a smaller field than playing on a big field. The adjustment is like this week at practice, there was a lot of small sided stuff on one half of the field, kept it compact, made it difficult for them to keep possession of the ball, and doing different things. But I think for the most part is I think I'm not worried about the preparation. I'm more worried about the rest and recovery side of
Maybe you could practice on the plane. You know, maybe that'll you bring a
it.
ball on there. And
Maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I'm not sure if that would how that would work out though. So all right, just hey, thanks for the time, Coach. I don't want to take up too much of your time since I didn't quite make it to practice today, and don't want to take time away from your family, especially when you're going to be going on a long road trip. But
No worries.
I always appreciate the time, sir, and good luck over the next several weeks, I guess.
We're gonna need it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Bye.